Oh, it's so great to be here. Okay, so I have the lucky job of trying to hold a candle to our amazing MC yesterday, Miriam, who totally brought down the house with her energy. And so, lucky me, I get to try and do that again today. So, keep me on my toes, guys. So, just to kick things off today, we wanted to get into it with acculturation, which has really been a theme, right, this whole time. We're talking about cultural direction setting. We're talking about what's going on in your camps, with your campers, how to keep your campers contributing year after year after year, all these really important topics. And acculturation is this thread that really comes through it all. So we wanted to spend a chunk of time today really diving into acculturation and hearing questions from you all about what you struggle with acculturating new campers. But it's not just new campers, right? It's acculturating returning burners who are new to your camp and getting them set up with the expectations and the culture of your camp that is unique and different from other camps. And, also acculturating sometimes longtime burners as well, right? It's not just new burners. Sometimes longtime burners need a little kick in the butt too. So it's a big topic, and the moderator for today to get us there is Coop from Comfort and Joy. Come on up with all of our panelists too. Come on up.
Thank you so much, Trippy, and thank you to Candy Ass and Dr. Dilemma for I served on that team to help you guys. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun, so thank you all. And as our panelists get seated, acculturation is a really big topic, and it's almost the answer to every question that I've heard asked this weekend in one way or another. And so we decided to bring forward very diverse types of camp leaders together to talk about how they do acculturation and to answer your questions. We're going to start off, and we're actually not going to follow the best practices that I wrote for how to moderate a panel, because I was sick with the flu for 15 days and I dropped the ball. But we're going to let them introduce themselves, and I'm going to ask them 2 questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience for your questions. Lorenzo.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo, Playa name Camp Daddy. I am a co-lead with Kia Viva. We are a social and racial justice arts camp.
Hi, my name is Alien, and I'm with Gallivant, and I'm a member of a 10-person council that basically runs the camp.
I'm Boz, one of the co-leads for Mud Skippers with our fruit smoothies and our Whitney Houston Crackers Whack Party.
Hey guys, my name is Emily. I'm from the Black Rock Center for Unlearning, and I have an awesome team, including Dwayne Jones, who is here with me today to help make that happen.
Great. Welcome to all of you. Great. So first I want to start off with one simple question. And I don't expect you to give me a simple answer, but for the sake of time, I wanted you to try to give me a concise answer. How do you do acculturation? What's your process?
Oh shit, look, we have lots of microphones. I'll start because I have a simple answer with a lot of communication and repetition. And really loud noises.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll do it this way. Perfect. Yay. So Emily, your answer was with a lot of repetition and what else? Great, thank you.
I usually have a lot less trouble with things like this near my mouth.
Yeah. Is that part of your acculturation?
Might be. Hide your husbands, ladies. With a lot of communication and a lot of repetition and sometimes very loud noises.
And is your acculturation happen year-round, only one part of the year?
Absolutely, year-round. We do year-round posts and education, and then we also reiterate the very important parts of that on Playa with hands-on demonstrations.
Hands-on demonstrations. All right, we'll come back to that. Thank you. Let's go to Boz.
Great. So we kind of have it let it happen at two levels. So when we basically have two orientations. We have one orientation that is for new members and also people that haven't camped with us before or haven't camped with us in a couple of years, and that's like a full presentation where I think slide 2 is talking about the 10 principles, and everything else kind of waterfalls underneath that is like everything that we're doing in the camp and why we're doing it. We really make sure that we're teaching the 10 principles from the very beginning. And then with the returning members, we kind of take it a step deeper. And I'm actually, I wear a second hat. I'm also one of the communications leads for the Temple Guardians. And I'm taking something that we did, in Temple Guardians, and I'm applying that to our camp in that we're taking the 10 principles and we're kind of rewording them to say exactly how we live those 10 principles in our camp and kind of applying those as values. And so then people are kind of ready to take the next step into embodying those principles as a camp member.
Fantastic. Can you give us an example?
Yes, I can. Let me so I'm going to give you a URL actually really quick. Temple Guardians at burningman.org. If you go there and you click on About Us and you go to the 10 principles a Temple Guardian practice, you can kind of see how we've reworded each principle to match what we do as Temple Guardians. So like, I'll take decommodification as an example since that's with our corporate citizenship. We create an environment and a community free of commercial intent or exchange. Temple Guardians do not volunteer in exchange for any benefit. Service is its own reward. And then just one other really quick one that I'll give is participation. We participate by holding the profound space and witness its miracles. We do not seek to involve ourselves in other people's experiences. Instead, we commit to ensuring that all who can enter and all who enter can deeply and personally participate in the temple on their own terms and in their own way. So I'm looking, this was very successful for us in the Temple Guardians, and so now I'm looking to do that same thing in our own theme camp as far as like, what does it mean to be radically, self-expressive or practice those principles in our own camp, and it's been great.
Great, thank you. Alien. It is. A little closer.
Basically, it starts with...
Oh, it's not on.
Thanks. Basically, it starts with people wanting to be in our camp. We're a very large camp. We're between 100 and 150 people, and we get a lot of requests. People have either been at our camp the year before, or they've gone to our website and they see something that appeals to them. So basically, we do an interview process. We find out a little bit about them, who they know in the camp, if they have a contact, and basically what they're looking for, and then we tell them what we're looking for. We also just appointed an acculturation officer who is composing a letter that will be going out that talks about basically what is acculturation and what we're looking for and how you can get help with it. We also kind of have a mentoring program on Playa. First of all, if you are bringing a new person, you are responsible for that person. You're required to not babysit them and be with them every minute, but kind of look out for them and make sure they're fitting into camp. And the other thing we have, I wrote a survival guide, and it's kind of like it covers not only things in the 10 principles and more or less the policies of the camp, so people have an idea when they come into camp what's to be expected and how to do things and where to find things.
So with Giviva, because we are a racial and social justice camp, we have we enter with the assumption or the expectation that we are at somewhat a similar level as far as analysis of race and class, gender issues, and so then we have conversations. When people first want to join, we'll have conversations with folks, and depending if they are recommended by somebody from the camp, that'll vary, like how, like 101 do we need to go as far as a conversation to assess where we're at, or just knowing from their application or their history, if they've done organizing, for example, that may be one way to access information. But we really want to make sure that when we get to the Playa, that we're all on the same page, that we're all committed to similar values, and that we've articulated those values, that we are a pro-Black liberation camp, for instance, that we are, we're a camp composed primarily of women of color, queer women of color, other people of color, deaf people, people with other, we call unseen disabilities, of course, queer, trans, non-binary folks. And so there is a baseline that we all move from as a camp. So, and then when there are issues that come up, either throughout the year or on Playa, particularly during build-up or breakdown, things tend to surface. We have a restorative justice team that works with folks to help out with, any fractures or any tension that may happen in relationships with each other. So that's like the internal acculturation, in addition to how not to die on the Playa, and then there is also the acculturation, like how do we, as people of color, prepare to be on the Playa, to be in a place that is likely going to be one of the whitest spaces we have ever been in our lives, right? And Burning Man is what, like 16.4% whiter than the U.S. population, like as far percentage-wise. So it's a thing. So when we show up, and because there's an experience, there's a visceral experience, there's a really painful experience. The first time, and we often talk about this in camp, the first time you see someone with a native headdress, like what do you feel, and how do you come back to camp? How do we process that? How do we stay? How can we remain engaged? How can we continue participating when that happens? Because it's a visceral experience, and I've been 5 years. Every single time, it's an experience, and you have to make a decision. Do you engage? Do you not? Do you walk away? Do you you have to always assess safety? So that's one of the other ways in which we support people in preparing them, again, during the year, on Playa, and then after.
I know one of the things you do at K Viva is some role playing. Can you talk a little bit about that? And for everybody else, how do you acculturate beyond the Playa? Because I think everybody here understands that we have to, people have to be good campers, good citizens in Black Rock City. But what do you do specifically to help people become good citizens of the world through your acculturation process?
Yeah, so we do on Sundays when most everybody's already has arrived. We do our opening welcoming dinner, and then we do a bit of a workshop on consent, and we all role play and trying out how to say no or just say no. And we really encourage people throughout the week. It could be the sweetest encounter, it could be the sweetest person, you may already know them. If they ask to give you a hug, try saying no. Just try it out. Just be in the practice. Let it be a muscle that if you were to say yes to something, you should be able to say no, and it should feel just as seamless. So it's something we role play a lot, and and we've been doing it for years, and every year it's still a little challenging to do, right? Like, may I give you a hug? No. Oh, okay. All right. So you just keep on moving, right? But because that's what it's like out of the Playa, and of course out in the world.
So in terms of acculturation beyond the Playa, we, first of all, after about a month after we all come home from the burn, we have a combination party/meeting, and we also stream it so that people who live out of the area can participate and see what's going on. It's basically a recap of what went on and talking again about what Gallivant stands for and what we're looking for. We encourage people that are in the area to come to the events that not only we sponsor, but we're very participatory in the Reno and Carson City events, and we encourage people to come and partake in that and see a little bit of how we extend what we do into the community.
So Mudskippers, we're kind of a smaller camp. We've got about, 75. It's medium size. But we're still kind of learning like how to, carry, our gift outside of Black Rock City. But we are trying to do like little social events that are, sort of both not only social to like bring in new members and have them get to know us and get to know what Burning Man's really about, but also it's an opportunity to fundraise, to do crafting parties together, to kind of make new things for that. And it just kind of creates a nice experience for everybody to kind of get to know each other and to get to know, kind of know what to expect at the burn.
First, I want to say I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing in terms of acculturation and talking about that and showing up and really speaking to the exclusivity and the whiteness of Burning Man, and just the courage to show up in that environment makes a huge difference, and I appreciate that.
And for the live stream, there's lots of snapping in the room.
I'm not the one that gets the snapping, but like that's tough work, and I really appreciate it. And I know how difficult it is to show up. There's a few things on this topic that I'd like to touch on. First and foremost, I know that a lot of you guys, and especially we just talked about it with Gallivant. You have someone in your camp who is responsible for the new person that gets brought in. At BRCU, we're doing that for the whole Playa. We're that person for everybody. We don't require you to have a sponsor when you join our camp. We do not interview you for fit. We believe that everybody has the power to be an excellent citizen of Black Rock City and an excellent citizen of the world if you will pay attention to them, educate them, and treat them with an open mind and kindness and acceptance. And so that's a big part of what we do, which is not to be confused with being soft and gentle people. We are not soft and gentle people. We're big fucking assholes to everybody, no matter who you are, and no matter what you think, and no matter what your politics, and no matter who you fuck or how you fuck them. Everybody is welcome here, and we will be just as snarky with all of them. One of the primary principles and the values of our camp is consent, and it's really big to us. It's one of our top 3. And the way that we teach people that is, boundaries is certainly one side of it, and it's a really important thing to learn. It's really important to learn how to say no. In our camp, we focus on the other side of that. We focus on teaching people what no looks like when it doesn't sound like no. And beyond that, we teach people the best way to be of service of others who maybe don't have their own voice and don't have their own advocacy and don't know how to say no. Because we've all been in a situation where you see somebody, you see an interaction between 2 or more people, and you, from a distance, you can tell there's a no happening. And it's not being said out loud, and you can tell the other person isn't hearing it, and they know they're not hearing a no, so they keep going. And we teach people that you can empower everyone in that situation by, instead of interjecting and saying, "Hey, buddy," or "Excuse me, is this lady bothering you?" that what you can do is you can just interrupt the flow of that conversation by interjecting yourself, and then you empower the person who doesn't have a voice and doesn't know how to say no to walk away if they so choose, without having to confront the person that's making them uncomfortable. And I think that's a huge power to take away in the world, because those interactions are not just sexual in nature. There are all kinds of ways that we step on people who have less power than us that we don't recognize. And for those of us that either have power or recognize that situation, it's our responsibility to interrupt it and allow people to reclaim their own power.
Emily, can you tell us about your hands-on acculturation workshops?
Yeah, sure. So, the really important thing is that you want your mouth and your hand to work together, right? So, and it's with the topic that I just discussed. So what I do is I have, I explain that principle to everybody in camp. We do the welcome thing, the check-in thing. We do that for every single camper. It's not at a set time in our camp. We do it repetitively until every single person has had an opportunity to hear all of those things and to have the same education and experience. So what we do is, I explain, like, this is what a situation looks like. You all know what it is. And I use the very, very relatable one of, here's a person in a bar, here's another person in a bar, but it applies to all kinds of things. Sometimes it might be a woman or a person of color, and someone is talking to them about, men's rights or whatever. It's not always sexual, but that's what people understand, and that's what's easiest to act out. And so I explain the whole thing, and then I will have two people come up to perform the skit. Three people, sorry. Three people, right? The person who you perceive to be wanting out of the situation, the person who can't say no, and then the person you perceive to be taking advantage, and then the person who's going to interject themselves. And one of the things that's really important to this is I always pick the person who is the aggressor to be somebody who's not comfortable being the aggressor, somebody who you don't expect to be the aggressor, okay? And what that does is it kind of tells you that it doesn't always look the way you think it's going to look. We always talk about how men are aggressive and they're taking advantage of women. And I will tell you right now that there are women who think that because they're a woman, it's okay to touch another woman. And that happens all the time. And so when you kind of flip that role, it really makes people think about it. And then I have the other person who's supposed to interject come up with a lot of different ways, and I teach them, you can talk to the person you think is the aggressor, or you can talk to the person who you think needs to get out of there, right? And I tell them all the ways they can do that, and then I have them reenact it, and then we all comment on it, and sometimes you can walk up to someone and like, oh my God, Tom? And you just, like, you recognize them, even if you don't, even if they're, no, I'm not Tom. You're like, oh my God, you can keep talking. You look just like my old roommate's boyfriend, to the point that the aggressor or the other person is waiting so long it becomes uncomfortable and they leave, right? You can say like, you can walk, oh my God, did I see you over at the Space Whale? Was that you? Isn't that amazing? Oh my God, it wasn't you, you haven't seen it. Do you want to go see it? You give them an opportunity to leave with you, all of those things. And I think that acting it out gives people the experience and the ability to do that in the world without, the kind of patriarchal attitude of like, let me save you.
Great, thank you. First off, can we just have a round of applause for the wisdom on this stage? Right. Thank you all for being here. Now let's open it up to the audience. We have a microphone here. Please line up behind the microphone with your questions. Sorry? And on the live stream chat, you can ask questions, and I believe Dom and Nicole are over there who will ask the questions for you. And while we're waiting for you to line up with your questions on acculturation, I'll give each of you to answer an opportunity to answer one question. What's the weirdest thing you've had to acculturate someone about?
So we have some members of our camp that feel very liberated, and we had to remind them that taking group interactive showers in front of certain other members of the camp may not always be a welcome thing. So that was one thing.
Okay, I don't know if it counts as acculturation. We do a camp meal plan. I've had to teach people how to scramble eggs. Yeah, like adults, guys. We run a bar. They're over 21. I think, God, I don't have any entertaining stories for you. I'm sorry.
This is a little more serious, but people who come into camp, either they've been brought in by somebody or they've come on their own, they've been invited into camp, and they don't participate at all. They're there. Maybe they've even got a work access pass because they can come in early and supposedly help with setup. And we find that we don't see them all week. They're off doing their own thing, and so a conversation is usually had with the person who sponsors them, and then we leave it up to them whether they want us to talk to the person or whether they will talk to them. And usually, if they have screwed up enough, we just don't invite them back for the next year.
I have a quick one. So we, I mean, every year there's always a delightful sparkle pony. This last year we had 2. And I got my Playa name, I'm Camp Daddy, because I tend to be very caring and want to make sure you get your water. So I'm a bit of a grandmother that way. But these 2 sparkle ponies, it's Monday morning, we're all packed, we're ready to go, and I'm the last one to do the loop check and close the container, and they are not, they're asleep in their camps. So to like wake them up after they've been up, they've only been asleep for like 30 minutes, and to explain to them, you know, like makeup's everywhere, that, you know, like they need to get up and go, and this is not okay, and we need to move it, and no, you cannot stay behind, and no, like so all, yeah, I mean, like the course of like 5 minutes, and really practicing consent and not grabbing their shit and, you know, doing it for them, right? So be really mindful and peaceful. That was hard, yeah.
Great, thank you. Please tell us your name and the camp you're with, and then ask your question.
My name is Prince, and I'm with Yummy Rumination. So we do Camp Circle every Monday through Friday, and we've done it for the 14 years we've been out there. And it's kind of like a statement question, but like, do any of you guys do Camp Circle? And how do you feel about that? We're having the struggle is, we have it 5 days or 6 days. Do people come for 2? Do people come for 1? But that's been like a major part of how we bring the camp together, is our camp circle in the evening around our communal dinners.
Yes, we try to have dinners together every night, and that tends to kind of then start to devolve as you know, as we get deeper into the week. But we also do, depending on who, there are various spiritual leaders who practice spirituality in our camp. I'm speaking awkwardly because I'm a devout atheist, but who then will bring people together for circles throughout the week as well. So it's not quite planned in this, but yeah, people tend to come together around food usually.
Being the size camp that we are, it's usually difficult to get the whole camp together. Everybody's on different schedules, and even if we try and plan something, not that many people show up. So we actually have a program called Admiral of the Day. We're pirates, so the lead person is an admiral. So we each take turns, the people on the council, and their job is to actually walk around the camp and try and speak to as many people as they know, concentrating on the people who are new to camp, and just introducing themselves and telling them about the other members of the council, letting them know that they are people who are resources who they can go to for questions, and then answering any questions they may have and showing interest. How's your burn going? You know, do you need help with anything? If you forgot something, you know, don't worry, you can ask so-and-so, or, you know, the Playa provides. So it's basically just trying to get a cohesiveness to camp. But on Monday, after the temple burn, we always have a camp, whoever's left on Playa, we have a camp dinner, and it's kind of a potluck. Everybody brings the stuff that they've had all week and didn't get rid of and don't want to take home. So that usually works well, and like last year, we had a pretty big turnout.
We also do a bit of a potluck. We found that Tuesday night is usually, by then, everybody's arrived on Playa. The build team's had some time to relax, and it's sort of like the passing of the torch from the build crew to the event week crew. So we do a potluck as well. We do it earlier in the week so that people can bring fresher food, which the build crew is usually very grateful about. And then we use that Tuesday night. Everybody just knows that's like one of the few events that everybody needs to be there for. And that's the time that we use to introduce ourselves, to kind of remind everybody about what the house rules are, kind of identify all the leads and kind of the norms that we are kind of expecting. And then we started a new tradition last year where we're starting to take a photo, a big camp photo every year. So we've got a record of everybody who's coming. So it's a fun time.
BRCU Camp Sharing Circle. No, we don't. We have communal meals, and people tend to gather around and talk. But we're really a home for those of you who, when you hear that, threw up a little bit in your mouth. Those are our people.
Okay. Hi, my name is Chainsaw, and I'm with the G-Spot. Yeah, woo! Can you find it? Yeah, exactly. Where is it? I don't know. Well, if I gave you directions, I don't know. You got to figure it out. Yeah. So this is actually not so much about G-Spot. I just was recently elected to the Ignition Northwest board. So that's based in Seattle, and we overlook sea compression. Yeah, what? And also Critical Northwest, which is one of the best, I probably think it's the best regional of all time. So I'm going to be heading up the Acculturation committee. And so my job, my task is going to be acculturating the newbies who come out to Critical Northwest. And so I was thinking like role playing is kind of fun, but I mean, when brand new people are coming in and like it is vacation station at Critical. Like I shouldn't say that, but compared to the burn, it's like there's a river. You guys should totally go, by the way. It's so nice. Like we set up and we're like, what do we do now? You know? So there's plenty of time and plenty of opportunity to really get into there, and like you newbies need to get on the tip, yo. But do you guys have any tips for me on like the newbie thing and like getting people on board? And the other thing too that's huge in Seattle, and I think Seattle has really forged this big time, is the consent. We call it the 0th principle. You guys call it 11th, but for us it's like the baseline principle, consent. So that's a big part of it too, and everyone's being encouraged with the theme camps to create like a consent policy, have it posted, and that everybody knows what that camp is all about. This is our culture. This is what you can expect from us and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I just want to hear from you any tips that you can give me for creating a space that I can teach the newbies who are coming into our culture.
I think that creating that space starts now. It starts with online resources and a discussion about what that means, and especially with regard to consent. I think it's funny that it gets named as a principle, right? Everyone's like, consent is sexy. Like, do you think clean water is sexy? No? Yeah, really? Because I think it's a basic human fucking right. And I don't need it to be sexy. Like, you don't come up here and take my boots off my feet, like, because you know you're not supposed to do that. They taught you that in kindergarten. So relating it to everything other than sex is how I teach people that. And so you start with online resources and talking, and you know your audience. And when you get them on Playa and you need to teach them things, demonstrations, oh my God, props. Like, that's the big thing is, you know, get out your inner MC. And whatever you need to do that, you know, if you're a person who needs a beer to do that, then, you know, have your beer before you do it and make it fun.
That's awesome.
I also think, and I think it was said in one of the morning sessions, that leading by example is a really good way to get people to kind of see the right, quote unquote, the right way to do things rather than thinking that they know what the right thing is. Like I said, we participate in a lot of events during the year, and we encourage people to come and be around the veterans and learn, just learn some of the shortcuts, or just see how people respond, not only within the camp, but with those who are not burners, and how you project an image of who we are that you want to project.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like proactive leadership. So if you have, like say having the 10 principles is super handy. If you have other like values, like statements that it's clear who you are, so you know what you're signing up for, and also that when people are coming on board, you may not know what you don't know, right? And so how then do you prepare them for that? And I think assuming best intentions, always being of course aware, and really believing that they can do it, right? And that they can commit to it if it resonates with them. There's one last thing, I just missed it, just left. Oh wow, sorry, squirrel. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
I'm going to break my rule about moderators stepping in. I just want to say one thing. Acculturation is not a one-time thing. Make sure that it's a constant communication, and you're modeling the behavior, and you're reminding people throughout their experience.
Oh, one more. Yeah, I remember. Consistency, like that the values are lived consistently, and if there's ever a faulting of or like veering away from a value, to slow down and have a conversation about why or what happened, and come back. Because yeah, like my brain is constantly looking for inconsistencies, and when I see that, then it's hard for me to stay on.
Next up.
Hi, my name is Ronnie. I camp with Thunderdome, and it's not so much a question; it's sort of my favorite method of acculturation for new people. Everyone who wants to camp with us, who is new, they have to fight their first year. We put people through a pretty intense experience, and we push people in a lot of ways, and it's important that they know exactly what it is that they're putting everyone else through, in order so that when they get in there, they can push them just enough, but they know what's too much. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you. Next up.
Hello. So I know we've talked all about how do we acculturate new people, and I think, as you said, that acculturation is an ongoing thing, and I think you also mentioned that acculturation for leads is also an important concept. I'm blessed to help run a camp that has a leadership structure of about 25 people, and I think one of the most challenging things that we do is how do we keep all 25 people on the same page, not just to what the 10 principles are, but also what our camp's own internal principles are, and how we stay consistent in bringing those out both to our internal campers as well as through the gifts that we bring to Playa. And so how do you all do that type of work with your own leadership teams? Do you have a book? Do you have a binder? Do you have a camp mom? What are your ways of helping make sure that your leads aren't turning into old crusty veterans who sit in their RVs and, have a pit of cylinders that go into another metal canister and don't do anything?
We actually, we have the 10-person council who does most, if not all, of the work, and we have an extended core crew, and we meet once a month throughout the year and discuss any issues and brainstorm to come up with ideas, and then ultimately we put it to a vote. So we talk about if the camp is going in a different direction, do we want it to go in that direction? What are we looking for in new campers? What are we looking for? What are we trying to project to campers and to BRC?
First, I want to say I didn't know you were on our lead crew this year. Okay, wow, that one
I
felt
think you're going to have
flat.
to fight Boz to get me on that.
Bad joke, guys. Sorry. So we have a year-round group discussion between leads for every year. We solidify who our leads are at the beginning of the year, and we do have about 25 leads. I have had a lead that had a real affinity with whipped cream as well. Is what I was getting at there, and. So I'm happy to answer that question more specifically, personally, later if you'd like. But what we do is we have that year-round acculturation with just leads as well. But we also, in our camp, we have a very strong leadership voice at the very top. And it's very clear what our values are. And we, each lead has a specific job, and sometimes that job is that you're God for 24 hours. You're in charge of the camp no matter what happens, and they do that in pairs, and so it kind of gives them autonomy, but they are able to take responsibility for what those values in the camp are. I'm not sure how helpful that was, but that's how we do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and full disclosure, Wesley's one of my co-leads in Mud Skipper, so my personal promise is I will not hold myself in an RV and lock myself in there. So I do think that it's really about just leading by example, and so I think that we are blessed to have a crew that's pretty tight as far as leads, and I'm always inspired to hear that we're always kind of cheering each other on and giving each other good feedback and reminding each other of like the 10 principles and like everything they embody. And I lost the second half of my thought, but yeah, it was
giant
good.
binder, the green. Mention the binder.
Binder. I already talked about
It's
the
a
binder in the
softball
last
question for you.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, we had a camp binder that's yes, teaches all the stuff.
Hi, folks. I'm Nicole. I'm with the doc team and helping out with the live stream. And before I have the comment here, I want to say learning is constant and acculturation is. And today I just learned from this panel that maybe I shouldn't be touching people on the shoulder when I'm asking them to speak into the mic. So apologies to anyone who was offended. It wasn't my intention. Heather Conquergood writes, if you don't do sponsors, how would you deal with a situation like Alien is describing, where a camper isn't doing anything wrong, but doesn't want to mesh with the camp either?
Great question.
Well, we've had a situation, one where someone was sponsored and turned out to be a terrible fit for the camp. It got to the point where he got the nickname of, I won't use his real name, let's call him Bob. So he became Shut the Fuck Up Bob. And to this day, he has not been back in years, and everybody goes, do you remember Shut the Fuck Up Bob? So this is an example of what we're not looking for. So it's basically just when we have campers that come in that just aren't a good fit, we do have a conversation and explain why we think they're not good fit, and kind of letting them know that we really want to for them to get more out of their burn, and we think that they might get more out of their burn being with a different group.
So with Give You, we're very clear that we are a community. We are invested in building community on and off Playa. And so coming and just, like, it's not a hotel, right? So just coming and maybe even doing your whatever job you've been assigned or that you volunteered for, and then you're out, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. It's not conducive towards community building and towards nurturing relationships, particularly given that we're primarily people of color camp, and given the larger demographics we spoke about earlier, and also we need to know where you're at, like, because we got you. Like, this certainly radical self-reliance, but we're not going to let you die. So we need to have some kind of a check-in. Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Did you want, okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. Oop. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm just going to tippy toe. Hi, I'm Snowflake. I'm camp lead for Vulcan Empire. I have a question about sparkle ponies being in camp and then not inviting them back the following year. They've been naturally weeding themselves out, so it's luckily been a topic that I've not had to have an uncomfortable conversation with. But there is one person in particular who has earned themselves the nickname Princess Useless, who has asked to come back, and luckily at that time we were at capacity, so I was able to kind of like skate by having an uncomfortable conversation, but I fully anticipate this person asking again, so I'm wondering if you have any tips or tricks for having these uncomfortable conversations.
I do, and I think that's definitely related to the last question. I will let you all know this will be my 10th burn, and I have been a recovered sparkle pony for about 7 years now, but I did spend those first few years as Princess Useless. and here I sit today. So I don't believe that that's a thing. I don't believe that there are people who are not a good fit for our camp. If they were not a good fit for our camp, then they would not want to come back. If they want to be present, then I will continue to expend my energy to teach them how to be better citizens. We don't require anybody to show up at a specific time and behave a specific way. I think that all communities take all people and not just the people that I personally like or that share my work ethic or values or any of those things. So when you have someone who you think is useless, I would challenge you as a lead to look closer at what their strengths are and how you can utilize that within your camp. Maybe they are useless on Playa. Can they create media for your camp? Can they design your shirts? Can they do work shifts? Are they just introverts? Do they just not want to talk to the loud, angry people like me? Are they sad? Is someone in your camp sad all the time and everybody doesn't really like them and is afraid of them and they don't talk to anybody? Good news, people. It's totally fine to be a sad person. It's allowed. Yeah.
So this last year, when I was ready to throw humans into the container camp, into the container, after that 5-minute fury I felt, I really I thought it was an opportunity for us to think about where did we go wrong, what did we not communicate, right? So going back to the people may not know what they don't know, right? And so was it clear that this is what we need to do? Was it clear that there's so many assumptions, we're moving so fast, and they were both new, and so one person is certainly not coming back, but the other one really wants to come back, and so we had a conversation about less about this is what you did wrong, but more about this is what it looks like to thrive in our community, and we want you to thrive. So and so if you're committed and you want to come back, then we would love for you we'd love to have you back.
Oh, okay.
I just want to say thank you to all of our camp leaders, Lorenzo, Alien, Boz, Emily. Please give a big round of applause. I'm Coop. We want to thank you all for the great questions and the magic, and acculturation is going to happen, and it's going to be a conversation that we have for the next 50 years probably. So if you have questions for them, I'm sure they'll be available after this, and we'll kick it back over to Trippy.